What if the greatest dynasty in modern football just made the single most important backup quarterback move in NFL history? What if the team that owns the Super Bowl era, the team built around the most valuable player on the planet, just admitted something publicly that no dynasty ever wants to admit? What if the Kansas City Chiefs just told the entire football world Patrick Mahomes might not be ready? Hold on, because what just happened today is bigger than a simple trade. This is not just about Justin Fields. This is not just about a quarterback changing zip codes. This is about the survival of a dynasty. This is about what happens when the most untouchable team in football suddenly becomes touchable. Stay with me, because this story starts way before today, and it ends somewhere nobody expected. Let's go back. Let's go all the way back to a Thursday night in December 2025. The Kansas City Chiefs, the same Chiefs who had won 3 Super Bowls in 4 years, were playing in what should have been a routine late-season game. Patrick Mahomes drops back, he scrambles, and then he goes down. Not a minor thing, not a sprained ankle, not the kind of thing that gets better with a week of rest and some ice packs. Patrick Mahomes tears his ACL and his LCL in the same play, in the same knee. The stadium went quiet. Not the normal quiet, the kind of quiet that you feel in your chest, the kind of quiet where 50,000 people all have the exact same thought at the exact same time, and that thought is, this is bad. And it was bad. Surgery happened in December, and suddenly, the most certain thing in the NFL, Patrick Mahomes being ready, being sharp, being the best player on the field, was no longer certain at all. The Chiefs finished the 2025 season at 6 wins and 11 losses. That's not a typo. 6 and 11. The team that had been to 4 straight Super Bowls. The team that people called a dynasty. 6 and 11. And when January came and February came and the rest of the NFL was watching the Seattle Seahawks beat the New England Patriots in Super Bowl LX, the Chiefs were home, watching, thinking, planning. Because if there's one thing the Kansas City Chiefs organization knows how to do, it's plan. They don't panic, they build. They chess move their way through problems that would break other franchises. And the problem was clear. Patrick Mahomes was rehabbing. His head coach, Andy Reid, said publicly that Mahomes was putting in 7 hours of rehabilitation work every single day. 7 hours every single day, with his athletic trainer, Julie Freimeyer, grinding through exercises, fighting through the pain, pushing to get back. But nobody, not Reid, not the Chiefs' front office, not the doctors, could guarantee that Mahomes would be ready for Week 1 of the 2026 season. So the Chiefs had to answer a question that seemed almost impossible to even ask out loud. Who plays quarterback for Kansas City if Mahomes isn't ready? And the answer, as of today, March 16, 2026, is Justin Fields. Now, before we talk about what this means for the Chiefs, we have to talk about what this means for Justin Fields, because this man's story is one of the most fascinating, most heartbreaking, most complicated quarterback stories in NFL history. And I need you to understand that before anything else. Because Justin Fields is not just a football player, he's a symbol. He's the symbol of every highly drafted quarterback who had everything, the arm, the legs, the raw talent, and somehow couldn't quite put it all together. The symbol of every player who kept starting over, kept moving, kept being told by one team after another, you're not quite enough. Let's go all the way back to 2021, the NFL Draft. Justin Fields walks across that stage as the 11th overall pick. The Chicago Bears trade up to get him. 11, top 15. That's elite territory. That's the company of franchise quarterbacks. That's the kind of draft position where teams build entire organizations. And Fields had the gifts. Oh, he had the gifts. He could throw. He had a cannon for an arm. He could drop the ball into tight windows with precision that made scouts gasp. He could extend plays with his legs in a way that made defenders look foolish. He was electric when he was running, fast, powerful, hard to bring down. In 2022, he rushed for over 1,100 yards. As a quarterback, that's running back numbers. That's insane. That's a human cheat code wearing a jersey. But the Bears were a mess, and that's being polite about it. Matt Nagy was the head coach when Fields arrived, and their relationship was rocky from the start. There were reports of communication problems, of Fields not being given enough freedom to play his natural game, of a system that didn't fit what he could do. The offensive line was giving up sacks at a rate that would make your eyes water. In 2022, Fields was sacked 55 times. 55! The most in the entire NFL that season. Imagine taking 55 hits in 1 year and still showing up every single week to play. But Fields kept showing up. He kept playing. He kept fighting. And then the Bears moved on. 3 seasons, that's all Fields got in Chicago. 3 seasons to prove himself behind a bad offensive line in a broken system with coaching changes swirling around him. And then the Bears drafted Caleb Williams with the first overall pick in the 2024 draft and said, "We're going in a different direction." For Fields, it was another door closing. But then something beautiful happened. The Pittsburgh Steelers traded for Justin Fields in 2024, and something clicked. Russell Wilson was supposed to be Pittsburgh's starter, and then Wilson got hurt, and Fields stepped in. And what the football world saw in those first 6 games of the 2024 season was a different Justin Fields, a freer Justin Fields, a more confident Justin Fields. He led the Steelers to 4 wins and 2 losses as a starter. He threw 5 touchdown passes and ran for 5 more touchdowns. He had just 1 interception. 1! The Steelers were winning. The offense was moving. Fields looked like a man who had finally found a system that trusted him, and he was rewarding that trust with everything he had. The football world started saying, "Wait, is Justin Fields actually good? Were the Bears just wrong about him all along?" And then Wilson came back healthy, and Fields went back to the bench. That's the story of Justin Fields. Always almost. Always so close. Always having the moment, and then watching it slip away. So, when the New York Jets came calling in the spring of 2025 with a 2-year, $40 million deal, $30 million guaranteed, Fields said yes. Of course he said yes. It was a team that needed a starting quarterback. It was a chance to prove himself once and for all. The Jets had been a disaster at quarterback for years. They'd brought in Aaron Rodgers the year before, and that ended with a torn Achilles in the first week of the season. They were desperate for stability. They were desperate for someone who could just come in, lead the offense, and help them win games. Fields was their bet. And the early part of 2025 was okay. Not great, not the Steelers' version of Fields, but okay. He completed over 60% of his passes. He threw 7 touchdown passes against 1 interception through the first stretch of the season. He was rushing for yards and touchdowns. The numbers weren't embarrassing, but the Jets were losing. 2 wins and 7 losses in his 9 starts. The offense was struggling to score, and Fields was getting benched. Week 3, he missed time with a concussion. Week 12, the Jets benched him in favor of Tyrod Taylor, a 30-something veteran who the team trusted more in the moment than the 27-year-old they'd paid $40 million. It was a public humiliation, one that Fields handled with class publicly, but that had to hurt privately. Another team, another benching, another message that said, "You're not quite what we need." When the 2025 season ended, the Jets were searching for answers. Geno Smith was brought in from Las Vegas to be the new starter in 2026. Justin Fields was suddenly redundant. He still had $10 million in guaranteed money for the upcoming season, but the Jets were clearly moving on. The question was just how. Would they release him and eat the salary, or would someone trade for him? Enter Brett Veach. Brett Veach is the general manager of the Kansas City Chiefs, and if you don't know his name, you need to know his name, because this man is arguably the best GM in football. He's the architect behind the Dynasty. He's the man who built the roster around Mahomes, who made the trades and signings that kept Kansas City competitive year after year, who found Patrick Mahomes in the first place. And when the Chiefs lost Gardner Minshew, their backup quarterback, to a free agent deal with the Arizona Cardinals, Veach had a problem. The remaining quarterbacks on Kansas City's depth chart behind Mahomes were Chris Oladokun and Jake Haener. Combined, those two had started exactly 3 NFL games. 3! For a team that might need a starting quarterback for multiple weeks to open the season, that is not a plan. That is a prayer. Veach needed a veteran. He needed someone who had started NFL games, who had been in big situations, who could manage the game and not completely fall apart if Mahomes was still rehabbing when September arrived. And when he looked around the league at available quarterbacks, Justin Fields stood out. Yes, Fields had struggled in New York. Yes, he was 16 wins and 37 losses as a starting quarterback. Yes, there were question marks about his consistency. But he was also 27 years old. He was also athletic enough to do things other quarterbacks couldn't. He was also a top 15 pick with real arm talent. And maybe, just maybe, in the right situation, with the right coaching staff and the right supporting cast around him,
Possibility number 2. Andy Reid, the greatest offensive mind in NFL history. The coach who turned Patrick Mahomes from a raw, gunslinging kid into the most precise, most efficient quarterback in football. The coach who has made every quarterback he's ever worked with better. If there's one coach in the NFL who could unlock the final levels of Justin Fields' potential, it is Andy Reid. And Fields knows that. Every quarterback in the league knows that. Possibility number 3, proximity to Patrick Mahomes. Stay with me on this one, because this is genuinely fascinating. You are a young quarterback. You want to get better. You want to understand what elite quarterbacking looks like up close. What better way to do that than to practice every single day next to the best quarterback in football? Even if Mahomes is rehabbing, even if he's not fully going through drills, the conversations, the film sessions, the insights from Mahomes in the meeting rooms, that experience is priceless. Fields chose to put himself in a position where he can absorb greatness every single day. And possibility number 4, and this is the boldest one, Fields genuinely believes he might get to start. He knows Mahomes is coming off ACL surgery. He knows the timeline is uncertain. He knows Andy Reid himself said Mahomes was rehabbing, but made no guarantees about Week 1. Fields is not coming to Kansas City to hold a clipboard. He's coming to compete. He's coming to be ready. Because if Mahomes isn't fully healthy when September rolls around, Justin Fields is the starting quarterback for the Kansas City Chiefs. Let that sink in for a second. Justin Fields, starting quarterback for the Kansas City Chiefs. The same Chiefs who have been to 4 of the last 6 Super Bowls. The same Chiefs who have the best coaching staff in football. The same Chiefs who have Travis Kelce, when healthy, and a wide receiver core and an offensive line and a defensive unit built to compete for championships. If Mahomes is out, even for just a few games, Justin Fields will walk into Arrowhead Stadium as the starting quarterback in front of 80,000 of the most passionate fans in professional football, with the weight of a dynasty on his back, with the entire football world watching to see if he can hold it together. That is either the greatest opportunity of Justin Fields' career, or it's the most pressure-filled situation any backup quarterback has ever walked into. Maybe it's both. Now let's talk about what Andy Reid does with Justin Fields, because the coaching element of this story deserves its own chapter. Andy Reid is 77 years old. He has been coaching professional football since before many of us were born. He has coached Brett Favre. He has coached Donovan McNabb. He has coached Michael Vick, who, by the way, had an absolutely legendary season under Reid in Philadelphia that people forget about. And then he coached Patrick Mahomes into becoming the greatest quarterback of his generation. Reid has a gift, a genuinely supernatural gift for understanding what a quarterback can do and building a system around those strengths. He doesn't force quarterbacks into a mold. He creates the mold around them. He looks at what you do well, and he builds an offense that puts you in position to do exactly that. For Michael Vick, he built a system that used Vick's legs as a weapon first and his arm as a complementary tool.
For Mahomes, he built a system that allowed Mahomes to improvise, to extend plays, to throw from angles that no other quarterback in the league could throw from. So what does Andy Reid do with Justin Fields? Here's what we know about Justin Fields. He can run, like legitimately run. He is one of the fastest quarterbacks in the NFL. He has broken off big runs against NFL defenses that were specifically designed to stop mobile quarterbacks, and he's still gotten loose. If you put Justin Fields in an open field with a defender to beat, there is a very real chance that Fields wins that foot race. We also know Fields has a live arm. He can make every throw on the field. Deep balls, rollout throws, tight window throws over the middle. When Fields is locked in and confident, the arm talent is undeniable. What has historically hurt Fields is his processing speed, his ability to go through multiple reads quickly, to diagnose a defense before the snap, to make the quick decision and get the ball out fast. That's the thing that the great pocket passers do that Fields has always struggled with. He holds the ball a little too long. He waits for the perfect play instead of taking the good play. And here's the thing about Andy Reid. He might be the best coach in football history at solving exactly that problem, because Reid's offense is built on simplification, on creating clear, easy reads for quarterbacks, on using motion and pre-snap shifting to tell the quarterback where the defense is going before the ball is even snapped. In other words, if there's anyone who can solve the Justin Fields puzzle, it's the guy who just happens to be his new head coach. Now let's talk about Patrick Mahomes for a moment, because his situation is the backdrop to all of this. Mahomes tore his ACL and LCL in December. ACL recovery in the NFL has gotten dramatically better over the past decade. The average return-to-play timeline for an ACL tear is somewhere between 8 and 12 months. For an elite athlete with the resources of an NFL franchise, the best surgeons, the best trainers, the best rehabilitation technology, the recovery can sometimes be on the shorter end of that window. December to September is about 9 months. That's right at the edge of the typical recovery timeline. Andy Reid has been cautiously optimistic. He's talked about how hard Mahomes is working. He praised the dedication, the 7-hour days, the consistent effort. But Reid has also been careful not to make any specific promises about when Mahomes is ready to play at full speed. Because here's the thing about ACL recovery that people don't always talk about. It's not just about being physically healthy enough to play. It's about being healthy enough to play at your best. There's a reason why so many quarterbacks who return from ACL surgery have a rough first few games back. The knee is technically healed, but the trust in the knee, the muscle memory of cutting and planting without hesitation, that takes longer to come back. Patrick Mahomes has 2 options for Week 1. He's either ready or he's not, and if he's not, even a little bit, Andy Reid is not the kind of coach who is going to risk his franchise quarterback's long-term health for a Week 1 regular season game, not after what they've built together. That's where Justin Fields comes in. The Chiefs needed someone who could start if necessary and not just survive, but potentially win. Fields, at his best, can win NFL games. He showed that in Pittsburgh. He showed that in flashes with the Jets before things fell apart. He's not Patrick Mahomes. Nobody is Patrick Mahomes, but he is a real, legitimate NFL quarterback who can operate an Andy Reid offense and give a defense real problems. And if Mahomes is out, even for just a few games, Justin Fields will walk into Arrowhead Stadium as the starting quarterback in front of 80,000 of the most passionate fans in professional football, with the weight of a dynasty on his back, with the entire football world watching to see if he can hold it together. That is either the greatest opportunity of Justin Fields' career, or it's the most pressure-filled situation any backup quarterback has ever walked into. Maybe it's both. Now let's talk about what Andy Reid does with Justin Fields, because the coaching element of this story deserves its own chapter. Andy Reid is 77 years old. He has been coaching professional football since before many of us were born. He has coached Brett Favre. He has coached Donovan McNabb. He has coached Michael Vick, who, by the way, had an absolutely legendary season under Reid in Philadelphia that people forget about. And then he coached Patrick Mahomes into becoming the greatest quarterback of his generation. Reid has a gift, a genuinely supernatural gift for understanding what a quarterback can do and building a system around those strengths. He doesn't force quarterbacks into a mold. He creates the mold around them. He looks at what you do well, and he builds an offense that puts you in position to do exactly that. For Michael Vick, he built a system that used Vick's legs as a weapon first and his arm as a complementary tool. For Mahomes, he built a system that allowed Mahomes to improvise, to extend plays, to throw from angles that no other quarterback in the league could throw from. So what does Andy Reid do with Justin Fields? Here's what we know about Justin Fields. He can run, like legitimately run. He is one of the fastest quarterbacks in the NFL. He has broken off big runs against NFL defenses that were specifically designed to stop mobile quarterbacks, and he's still gotten loose. If you put Justin Fields in an open field with a defender to beat, there is a very real chance that Fields wins that foot race. We also know Fields has a live arm. He can make every throw on the field. Deep balls, rollout throws, tight window throws over the middle. When Fields is locked in and confident, the arm talent is undeniable. What has historically hurt Fields is his processing speed, his ability to go through multiple reads quickly, to diagnose a defense before the snap, to make the quick decision and get the ball out fast. That's the thing that the great pocket passers do that Fields has always struggled with. He holds the ball a little too long. He waits for the perfect play instead of taking the good play. And here's the thing about Andy Reid. He might be the best coach in football.
In 2022, Fields threw for 2,242 yards, 17 touchdowns, and 11 interceptions. He also rushed for over 1,100 yards and 8 touchdowns. He was one of the most exciting players in football that year. He got sacked 55 times, which tells you more about the Bears' offensive line than it does about Fields. You can't be a good quarterback when you're on the ground more than you're upright. In 2023, Fields had flashes of brilliance, but struggled with consistency. The Bears were going nowhere fast, and the front office had already decided they were going to draft their next quarterback. In 2024 with the Steelers, 4 wins and 2 losses in 6 starts, 5 touchdown passes, 5 rushing touchdowns, 1 interception, a quarterback rating that was significantly above average, a performance level that had the football world buzzing. In 2025 with the Jets, the numbers weren't bad. 7 touchdowns, 1 interception, over 62% completion rate, but 2 wins and 7 losses because the Jets were just not a good team. Here's the through line I see. Fields plays better when the team around him is better. He plays better when the coaching is better. He plays better when he's given freedom to operate within a system that fits his skills. The Kansas City Chiefs check every single one of those boxes. Better team, better coaching, better system, better everything. There's one more element to this story that I want to make sure you understand before we wrap this up. The Kansas City Chiefs, even at 6-11 last year, are not a broken franchise. Let me be really clear about that. The reason the Chiefs went 6-11 was almost entirely because Mahomes was playing through injuries and then ultimately tore his knee. The supporting cast, the defense, the tight ends, the offensive line is still largely intact. The front office still has Brett Veach at the helm, one of the best front office minds in football. Andy Reid is still coaching, still one of the most brilliant offensive minds in NFL history. This is not a rebuilding franchise. This is a championship-caliber franchise that had one catastrophic injury to its most important player and paid the price. When Mahomes comes back healthy, and he will come back, the Chiefs are instantly back in the conversation for the Super Bowl. Instantly. There is no question about that. And if Justin Fields can bridge the gap, if he can go out there in Week 1 and Week 2 and Week 3, however many weeks Mahomes needs, and keep the Chiefs competitive, then what was supposed to be a lost season becomes something else entirely.
What was supposed to be the year the dynasty paused becomes the year the dynasty refused to pause. What was supposed to be the year the Chiefs got left behind becomes the year Justin Fields stepped into history. We are living in an extraordinary moment in NFL history. Patrick Mahomes, arguably the best quarterback to ever play the game, is rehabbing a torn ACL. His replacement, a quarterback who has been written off by 3 different franchises, just voluntarily chose to come to Kansas City because he believes in himself and he believes in this organization. This trade is worth 50 cents on paper, $3 million and a 6th-round pick. That's the financial cost. But the actual stakes, the actual weight of this trade, immeasurable. Because if Mahomes comes back quickly and Fields never has to start, this was still a smart, necessary roster move that gave the Chiefs insurance they desperately needed. Check that box. If Mahomes comes back a little slow and Fields starts 3 or 4 games and plays well enough to keep the Chiefs at .500 or better, this is a brilliant trade that might have saved the Chiefs' 2026 season. Check that box too. And if, in the most dramatic version of this story, Mahomes can't return until mid-season and Justin Fields leads the Kansas City Chiefs through September and October and into November, winning games, proving doubters wrong, rewarding Andy Reid's trust, then this becomes one of the greatest backup quarterback storylines in NFL history. One man's second chance, one dynasty's act of faith, one trade that cost almost nothing and could mean absolutely everything. Justin Fields is a Kansas City Chief, and somewhere in the most exciting version of this story, somewhere in the version I think is possible, somewhere in the version that football fans will be talking about for years, Justin Fields is about to have his moment. Don't look away. If you've made it this far, you already know this story is just getting started. The NFL offseason is moving fast, and the Chiefs just made the most fascinating move of the entire free agency period. Subscribe if you want to stay on top of every development, every update, every twist in this story as it unfolds. And leave me a comment right now. Do you believe Justin Fields can be the guy for Kansas City if Mahomes isn't ready for Week 1? Can Andy Reid unlock what everyone else has been unable to unlock? Can Fields finally have his moment on the biggest possible stage? I want to know what you think, because this story is yours too now.